Bro! Oh, this is funny. I like this. I like this. I like this. I like this. I like this for very nerdy reasons. This is, I think, basically trying to recreate Drudge Report. Famously, an old school... Now, this right here is the juicy shit, okay? Come on, Asmin Gold isn't a dropshipper. Asmin Gold doesn't care. If tomorrow Trump fell out of fashion, he would also start finding a way to, you know, change his narrative on it. He just goes along with the... He just goes along with the wave, dude. He goes along with the meta. And the tide is shifting already. Look at this. We have 41,000 people in here, partially because a lot of you are drama-obsessed perverts. But, you know, don't worry. The tide shift is coming. Just like October 7, 30% of this community left. What happened? They came back, okay? People inevitably arrive when history... You know, when history vindicates me over and over again, people inevitably go, okay, maybe I was wrong about this. Let me hear someone else's opinion. Maybe this guy that I thought was a douchebag and wrong about everything and gay and lame is actually not so wrong about this stuff. Let me hear him out. Half of this community is people like that at some point realized maybe it wasn't the best idea to support Donald Trump. It'll be just like when Asmin pretended to care during BLM and COVID. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about, he doesn't have real political opinions. Like, he's just going along with, he's chasing a meta.
Special from inside the White House.
When you stepped back in the Oval Office after you were reelected,
right?
What went through your mind? Triumphant when you walked back?
Yeah, there's a feeling of triumph.
President Donald J. Trump on his 100th day in office from the #1 issue,
My uncle posted this on Facebook. Okay, I'm not
some people
clicking
who
that.
voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually.
To immigration.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at...
I'm mostly trying to convince my lesbian femme studies PhD friend that you are socially acceptably... I'm sorry, that's probably not going to work. Like, that's not going to happen, I don't think. I'll be honest with you. As you have probably an easier time convincing a Trump supporter who's like super reactionary to look into what I'm saying and agree with me than a person with convictions to that degree. Like they've literally studied it. Sam is cooking, H3 fan, close to 10 years here. Kind of a wake-up call for me. Yeah, of course. Come on, dude. What do you think? This is how he is. This is how he has kept his community as like one note, as an echo chamber. Insta lock. I don't think you're just that you're a man. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna say that I don't have moments, but we're all imperfect. Wait, so an educated person wouldn't like you? Is this a cell phone, or were you joking? No, someone specifically educated with a PhD on gender studies that thinks I will most likely, if they already have that opinion, they're not going to change that opinion. Especially because, like, the irony, of course, is that my goal isn't to get someone like that on board anyway. What do I always say? If you're trans and you hear me talk about trans people, that's not for you. That's for transphobic people. You know, if you're black and you hear me talk about black liberation, that's not for you. I'm talking to white people and non-black people who have anti-black tendencies, anti-black opinions. That's it. Not this account either. Make a new one. What is this? No, they were both right and agreed. He just didn't agree that you were a piece of shit because he doesn't know the details of what's been done that led to the CPS and human skulls and such. Wait. Come on. We have to. This is fascinating. Dude, Ethan Klein fans at this point are fascinating. You know I know Sam personally, right? Like for years at this point. Ethan himself didn't actually think that Sam was going to be as contentious. So you won't listen to black chatters? Got it? Yes. That was my point. Yeah. You understood the point that I was making. Oh, you joke. Okay. Imagine someone saying, I have moments of racism, I'm not perfect. You would not let this shit fly for anyone else. It's why my friends who like your political takes find you hard to watch. What? Imagine... Wait, what do you mean? No, there definitely can be an instance where I will be off base. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. On every issue. Yes. I can come across as transphobic or racist in certain circumstances. Yes, that is not, I'm a human being. My friends who are women and myself sometimes. No, you thought you could catch me in this to be like, misogyny is an acceptable bigotry for you as opposed to all these other bigotries. No, I'm saying I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. There were absolutely be instances where I get something wrong. What the? Also, the fact that you're my friends who are women. I'm not a woman, but I have women friends. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, you are a woman. My bad. See, there's that misogyny again. I just assumed you weren't a woman. It was partially because I thought it was a silly argument. And I did not want to attribute a silly argument to a woman. All right. My food is here and I'm cracking my knuckles. It's time to get into it. It's time to dive in. Full interview. President Trump, first 100 days, the interview in the Oval Office. Remember, he basically said in this interview at a certain point, he brought up the fact that he chose this interviewer. He hand-selected this interviewer. So that makes it even funnier because when the interview doesn't go the way he thought it would go, okay, it becomes even funnier because he's like, what do you mean? I chose you. I chose you. I didn't know anything about you, but I chose you. Chatter's low-key right, though. Not exactly easy to show your content to women. Okay. Fine. Like, yes, listen, there is one quality to me that I will never be able to change. I am a man. And not only a man, but a man that exhibits a lot of tendencies that maybe some people might consider, depending on their own perspective, their own lived experiences, somewhat toxic. Okay? I can't change that. That's who I am. And guess what? I'm not going to change that. So if you have an issue with that, then yeah, take it up to a bisexual lighting infused bread tuber. Okay? There's plenty of them out there. Go listen to them then. Why the fuck are you here? Go listen to women. God damn. If you can't, if you think someone like myself is exhibiting like, you know, impossible to contend with levels of misogyny, then there are a million different content creators out there that I think would be better for you. Okay. I can't change your mind because I think a part of that is not coming from a place of like real issues. Chat really talking like you insult women all day, every day. I know. Like, you're making it seem like a big part of my commentary revolves around saying women ain't shit. Like, as a bisexual woman, these chatters are just on one is so stupid. Yeah. I'm an AFAB Emmy person, and everyone I know that watches you is a woman or trans. The only women that shouldn't like you are radfems or woke of the day types. Yeah, that's basically it. Anyway, let's continue. I got to stop. I did talk to one woman whose opinion I do care about quite a bit, even though I jokingly say she's my enemy, Maya Higa, who revealed to me that she actually watches me and said that I get one guide far too much and I pause far too much when there's a video that we should be watching, and she gets annoyed and she's like, please unpause the video. So in honor of Maya Higa, I am going to unpause this video and I'm going to try to not get one guide. Okay. I know many of you want this to be an opportunity where you come in and say, well, I'm a woman and you ain't shit. You're actually a piece of shit or something along those lines. It's cool. I'm not going to entertain it right now. Maybe later. Okay. And to all of the male followers that came in here because they thought that I was an enemy of women. Okay, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Come back tomorrow.
The southern border have plummeted a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
To Elon Musk.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too reckless?
And the concerns from many Americans about the impact of tariffs.
Everything's going to be just fine.
President Trump, the first 100 days, the interview in the Oval Office with ABC News anchor and senior national correspondent, Moran.
Today, I sat down with President Trump in the Oval Office for an exclusive interview on his 100th day of his second term. It was a great opportunity to ask him some wide-ranging questions about the issues that most concern so many Americans. We talked about the economy and his tariffs. We talked about immigration and those deportations. And you can see here the White House has put up some posters that they say show some of the violent criminals that have so far been deported. We talked about a lot more as well. The president's answers were provocative, at times combative, and always he was strong in his convictions about his policies. But before we get to the interview, we begin
I think you're responding to what Trump is saying, I think, right?
Tonight with a look inside the Oval Office.
I'm not going to get one
Donald
guy.
Trump
I'm not pausing.
has transformed.
Sometimes
Hello,
it's hard.
everybody. How are you? This is the Oval Office. This is the Resolute desk, which is really something very spectacular.
Oh my
There's
God.
nothing quite like it.
It's out of
And
focus.
they give you a choice of about 7 different desks, but this is the one I chose. Ronald Reagan had it. FDR had it. A few people had it, but I found it to be the most beautiful.
It is amazing.
This is an amazing space, and amazing maybe architecturally wonderful, but amazing for what it represents. It represents the U.S., and if properly used, a lot of good things can happen.
I see Ronald Reagan over there.
Yeah, and
Ronald
if
Reagan.
improperly
Right to your
used, Trump
Being in the Oval
happens.
Office is very important. See Ronald Reagan here, and put him a little bit larger. It sort of seemed to fit very nicely.
A little bit
You
larger.
have, Democrats a little bit. You have
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. So you look at that picture and people say, well, what's he doing up there? But look, he was a serious president, whether we like it or not. He was a
Wait,
four-termer.
why wouldn't you like
and,
FDR?
Went through a war.
What the fuck?
You have Lincoln, you have Washington, but you look over here, that's Monroe, the Monroe Doctrine.
Why is he up there?
I think the Monroe Doctrine was pretty important. You know, that was his claim to fame. Over here, you have the original.
Chad, I say, why wouldn't Trump like FDR? Japanese internment camps is something that Trump would like. But even like Social Security and stuff, like, you're not supposed to say you hate those things. Those are popular things. People say positive things about FDR, even if they're Republican, usually, unless they're like crazy libertarians.
Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and of course you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
Lincoln's portrait up there. I'm not familiar with that one, but I think when I'm looking at that famous line in the second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity toward all.
Well, he was a great president. He went through a lot.
And the Oval Office is always changing between presidents. And
It changes,
that says
yeah,
something.
it does.
What does this say about how you feel about the country and the office?
Well, I think it says I love the country. I mean, I'm putting pictures of presidents up that have never been up, pictures that weren't
Wait, what?
largely used. And in many cases, you know, great men, in this case men, but great men,
Could
great
be women.
achievement.
And your every detail, it seems.
Yeah.
This is your office.
I'm a very detailed person. I'm a very clean person. I like cleanliness. I like to see this space be treated properly. I've added a lot to the space in terms of beautification, in terms of modernization.
It just means
Gallery
gold.
of presidents.
It really is. It really is. So, and it's an honor to have you people with us.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Here in the Oval Office, it's special. 100 days into your second term. So what's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad. They were allowing people to come in from prisons, as you know, and you've heard me say it, but you've heard a lot of people say it. Prisons, mental institutions, gang members, murderers. We had many murders, 11,888, they think.
I'm sorry for repeating myself over and over again, but ironically, the faucet of misinformation that Trump presents makes it pretty impossible, makes it damn near impossible to combat. Like, everything he's saying here in front of a fucking journalist is wrong. Everything he just brought up is wrong. And what is he supposed to do? Like, the journalist is supposed to be like, wait, you're saying what? Like, they're coming in to do murders from insane asylums? Like, what? Where have you gotten this information? Is there any actionable intelligence that has arrived at your desk? You've been saying this since before you even got into office. Like, where did you get this information? Like, nothing.
some murdered more than one person. So you had murderers coming in, you had everybody coming in, and not just South America, from all over the world. They were emptying their prisons into our country. And now it's totally closed down. And you've seen just yesterday, they announced 99.9%. Nobody thought that could happen. And it happened quickly, very quickly. And I think that's very significant. But we're doing other things.
Like nothing on that. Partially because the journalist wants the interview to be conducted at all. And he knows that if he starts pushing back here on the off rip, he's not going to get anything.
Things that are very significant. Results will take a little bit longer because it's one of those, you know, it's complicated. It's many years of trading abuse. We've been abused by other countries for years and years. They laughed at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we're fixing it. And I think that's going to be very, very important. But
I have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. You know, just
and we'll get there. Immigration, huge, and we're going to get there. But I want to start with the economy, the number one issue for so many people, for just about everybody. It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing 3 to 5 billion.
Low-key, he's right. I'm sorry. He's 100% right. When Trump supporters say, oh, I didn't sign up for this, it's like, no, you did. You literally did. He said it like a lot. He said it nonstop. You can call him many things. You can call him a liar, but you can't say he's not fulfilling exactly what he promised. Now, there's also a goal there, supposedly, for why he's doing this, and that goal is never going to be accomplished. That part is a lie. But in the short term, the tariff stuff is absolutely prominently displayed in his campaign material, prominently.
$1 billion a day on trade. We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year. Not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy during my first term. We had a tremendous economy, tremendous success. And we did tremendous numbers of tariffs on, we took in a lot of money from tariffs, China in particular, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this, otherwise it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you'd said you'd bring prices down on day one, and that it would happen fast, and that it would happen fast.
I have.
Most economists will tell you that tariffs will raise prices. So don't your tariffs cut against that promise you made to bring prices down?
No, because I had massive tariffs on China, if you remember, in my first term, and we had essentially no inflation, like around 1% inflation, which is like a perfect number.
Dog, that's crazy to compare. One, prices for the key things that Donald Trump put tariffs on did go up. And two, universal tariffs at 145%. And on top of that, the counter tariffs, the retaliatory counter tariffs that we received from China led to the American government spending more money on subsidies to farmers than they even collected from the tariffs.
And then when Biden took over, it went through the roof. It went to probably the worst inflation we've ever had. I mean, we had an inflation nightmare. Now, if you look at what's happening now, we're only there for 100 days, as you say. And in 100 days, we took over. We had bad inflation for 4 years, for 2 years of, especially 2 years of his administration. I would say record-setting like we've never seen. They say 48 years, the worst in 48 years. I say it was much worse than that.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you look at what's happened, energy is down. Gasoline hit $1.98 in a few states during the last couple of days. It was $3.50 and $4 and $4.50. But gasoline is way down. When I took over, you remember the big thing with eggs. They hit me the first week. Eggs, 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 like it was my fault. I said, I didn't cause this problem. This problem was caused by Biden. What's the problem with eggs? And they said, they've doubled. And well, eggs are down 87% since I got involved.
A lot of that is bird flu.
And by the way, and there
right?
were plenty of eggs for Easter, which we just went through. There were plenty of eggs for Easter. They were saying you won't have enough eggs for Easter. My secretary did a fantastic job on eggs. Groceries are down. Everything's down.
Okay.
Interest rates are the same. Interest rates should be down, but we have a Federal Reserve that wants to be stubborn. They want to be cute.
We'll get to that. You said something a couple weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices. You said, quote, hang tough. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should expect, some hard times?
I've said that during my campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. You know, we had a tremendous campaign. I said all of these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every country all over the world. They're laughing at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we were. And I said, that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You know, you don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from maybe...
Covered this yesterday, but the price of crude oil has gone down, but the price of gas at the pump has not. And also on top of that, there's going to be some hard times in the recovery period. Would be correct if there was actually a recovery program, if he was also working on rebuilding a manufacturing base in the United States of America, rebuilding infrastructure, training the necessary labor force to be able to take on high precision manufacturing. You know, a competitive domestic manufacturing industry is a necessity. But because he's not doing that, and there's no plan to do that, and it's virtually impossible to do that within the capitalist framework that he has in mind, this trade protectionism is just idiotic, and all it will lead to all it will do is it'll lead to shortages, and it will lead to price increases and layoffs.
$3.20, maybe more than that, down into a much lower number. When you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs, right? We still have 145% tariffs on China. Your Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
and
so 145% tariffs on China, and that's
good.
Basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. They're not doing that anymore.
I want you to think about the boom that this country has had in small businesses, mom and pop Etsy stores, small businesses that became big businesses.
They haven't had a boom because of inflation.
Well,
the boom was inflationary boom. The people were wiped out with inflation. I mean, you read the news, you do the business stuff, I assume.
Now, a lot of them built those businesses on the trading model.
Yeah, and they're going to make more money
They
now.
sourced their products overseas, and now they're looking at an extinction event.
I've been here.
It's disaster.
I'm sorry. I'm so jealous. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. Why does he get this level of why does he get this allowance? Why does he get to fucking destroy small businesses and restructure the economy, but not actually end up restructuring the economy? There's just no way that a Bernie Sanders style person, if they were to engage in like building a robust manufacturing base and then doing trade protectionism, there's just no world in which the media would not be calling for his head. Like this is infinitely kinder This is infinitely kinder than what he deserves. Like, what do you mean? Well, he doesn't even ask, like, what do you mean when you say we're getting ripped off? Do you mean like the trade scheme that America has designed for the rest of the globe? Is that what you mean? Is us getting ripped off? Is poorer countries basically trading on the dollar? So we just give them fucking IOUs and they get cheap labor as a consequence of that? Like affordable goods as a consequence of that? It's so fucking annoying.
For them. I've been here for 3 months. I've taken a trade deficit down to a number that's very, very starting to get really good. I just got here. We had a country that it was not sustainable, what Biden did to this country, between the open borders where criminals poured into our country, between every country in the world ripping us off on trade. It was not sustainable.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying, we can't live a month, 2 months with these tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion being invested in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over a year. I mean, if you look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies. Companies are flooding into our country right now.
So your answer to the concern about the tariffs is everything's going to be hunky-dory?
Everything's going to be just fine. It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. I had a choice. I could leave it, have a nice, easy time, but I think ultimately you would have had an implosion. Our country had inflation that was worse than they've ever had it before. You don't mention that. Why don't you mention that? We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. People say 48 years. Probably in the history of our country, we had the worst inflation. And people were dying over the inflation. You know that. Now the grocery prices are coming down. The energy prices are coming down. Gasoline's coming down. It's all heading in the right direction.
Okay, let's move on to immigration.
Coming up.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
Okay, let's move on to immigration. And as you said, it is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods. And so I want to ask
about my message?
Method.
Incredible take from ABC. Thank you for your impartiality, sir. Yeah, I mean, if I were to... Here, crime is overwhelmingly committed by men who are natural-born U.S. citizens. Yeah, if I started killing every man who's a natural-born U.S. citizen with a state mandate, yeah, we would eviscerate crime. We would lower the likelihood of crime. If I started killing every child, every male child, we would eradicate crime, I guess. Does that seem like a good approach? I'm trying to win the girly pop nation back, by the way, with that argument. You guys like that? You like how I snuck that in? The rad femmes that are like, the rad femmes that say I'm not sufficiently pro-women, I think I'm bringing them back. I'm winning them over. How is that related to the question posed? It's because it's fucking idiotic. Undocumented migrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens, like significantly less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. So the idea that you are trying to tackle crime across the board by deporting undocumented migrants is fucking idiotic. Like, your reaction or your solution to a problem should be at least sufficient and not more dangerous and not stupid or more violent.
About your methods, how you're accomplishing
They seem to work.
Do you acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first to make their case?
Well, are we talking about people that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you're not deporting citizens at this point.
Well, let me ask you, did they get hearings when Biden allowed 21 million, because I think the number is 20 million people to flow into our country? You had 21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want, in many cases, in our country, right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all over the world. We're talking about some of the roughest countries in the world. They had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
But the
did
law-
we give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
Do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials? Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
Bro, this is not an argument, dude. Oh my God. Chatters, I need you to understand how dangerous it is that JD Vance and now Donald Trump are talking like this, where they're basically gearing up the public for, yeah, no due process. We just simply can't do it. Yeah, if you want to do immigration enforcement action on 21 million people, you have to do due process to 21 million people. There is no, I'm sorry, it's just too hard. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Then, okay, reconsider and do amnesty instead, like Ronald Reagan did. What the fuck do you mean? We simply can't do regular trials for 21 million people. Well, there's your answer then. Then you don't do that, dipshit. Also, immigration hearings aren't trials. They take like a day, if even. It doesn't matter. Even if they were like a day-long process, which you're not wrong, it is much faster. It's much more swift because like immigration courts are different than the judicial branch. It's basically a function of the executive. But like he doesn't even want to do that. That's what's so crazy about it. Like he doesn't even want to do the rubber stamp approach. Like it's fucking bullshit. He doesn't want the paper trail associated with a rubber stamp. God forbid a fucking immigration judge says no. I'm trying to think of a hyperbole to demonstrate how insane this is, but there isn't one. It's like if we stopped doing trials was my go-to. Yeah, like the eradication, that's still 21 million days. Yeah, man. That's exactly. I guess we have the same point, kind of. Like what? I know. It would take a long time, which is why you have to make a different assessment. And the solution can't be, oh, it would take too long of a time, so we have to literally eradicate due process. Because guess what? As this administration has shown already, when there's no due process, they send the wrong people over there. When there's no due process, you can be sent over there if you don't look sufficiently citizen-like. Also, yes, there's not one immigration judge, and there is not one case that the immigration judge takes every day. It doesn't matter. 21 million is a massive number. There's no world in which, if there was actually 21 million people that have to be deported from U.S. soil, that have done like egregious crimes or whatever, first of all, America would collapse. Like, can you imagine the world that Trump presents without any pushback whatsoever? I want you to close your eyes and think about that for a moment. That there are 21 million rapist, drug dealing murderers who are parasitic forces on U.S. soil, and they are always just doing hundreds of thousands of murders a week or a year. Like, that would be a psychotic, that would be fucking cyberpunk, dude. That would be video game Grand Theft Auto server, PvP unlocked. Like, think about it this way. There's a police force in every city in the United States of America, okay? There is a police department in every single fucking locality in the United States of America. Do you know how many cops are in the United States of America total? 891,289. Okay? Now imagine, there's a cop in every city. Like, you've seen a cop. You see cops all the time when you're driving. Now imagine that there are 20 times the number of like bloodthirsty rapist beheaders out there. They would be everywhere. What are you saying? Like, it's just like such a stupid fucking number to present. It makes no sense.
Law
Give
is the
21
law,
million?
sir. The law is the law, and you are
The law
sworn
doesn't
to
say anything
uphold it.
about trials.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country
Right.
illegally.
And
We
there's-
have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process. I can't have a trial, a major
I'm
trial
not
for
saying
every
major.
person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out, and we have to get them out fast.
Really bad guys, but in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal. They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process where we have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyer.
What does that mean? Don't let him move on from that. He's like, they get a process where we get him out. That's not what due process means. What the fuck? Like, that would be a banger response if he was joking. You know what I mean? If he was being purposely cruel and he was like, well, there's a process. It's called get him out of here. But this is a very specific constitutional protection that you are having an argument over. Don't let the president get away with saying, no more due process. Sorry, it's too hard.
Right. All right, let's talk about the Venezuelans. You deported more than 200 Venezuelans to that prison in El Salvador. You say they're violent, they're gang members, they're terrorists. Many of them don't have a criminal record at all.
Well,
but I want to.
I'm not so sure about that. If you take a look,
I want to read you something.
Excuse me. When you look at those, they were violent people. They were violent people.
But many of them don't have a criminal record at this point.
I want to read you something.
Well, it's based on their lawyer, what their lawyers have said. Okay. Joe Rogan said this. Joe Rogan, one of the leading podcasters, Trump supporter, about the deportation of Venezuelans. He said, quote, rounding up gang members and shipping them to El Salvador with no due process, he said it was dangerous, and added, quote, we got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. Is Joe Rogan right?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, we want to be careful, and we are careful. We're doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe Biden, and it's not him because I don't even think he knew what the hell was happening, but the people around him are vicious people, and what they've done to the country is unbelievable. They've allowed 21 million people to pour into our country. Many of these people are criminals. They've allowed you mentioned Venezuela, the jails of Venezuela to be emptied into the United States. Do you know Venezuela crime is way down? Way, way down. You know why? Because their criminals are now living happily in the United States of America, and we're getting them out. And I was elected to get them out, and we're getting them out.
Under the law.
And we're getting them out fast, and we're getting them out legally. Now,
E-Style, I agree with everything you said. Disagrees entirely. I wonder if Ethan's fan base recognizes that. Probably not. It is the same kind of narcissistic take where it's like, no, I agree with everything you're saying, except I don't agree with a single damn thing, and I'm going to keep lying. Like, just kidding. Don't agree at all.
Now, in some cases, we have judges. In some cases, they're radical left judges. What happened the other day where a judge was protecting a criminal was horrible. And I think she's got big problems, frankly. And there are a couple of them like that.
I want to talk about one
Wait
man.
a minute. Yep. We have to be treated fairly by judges. And we're not being treated fairly by all judges.
Oh, that's a subject. So you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the court orders?
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him to facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not.
That's such a funny fucking way to counter this, because he's saying like, no. The lawyer was too experienced. Like, I know he's trying to say it's a radical lefty lawyer, as in like Obama brought her in or something. Okay. But the irony is half of those people that he's talking about are immigration lawyers and immigration judges. So they are already pretty fucking reactionary. They're already pretty right-wing. They're very conservative. And even then it doesn't matter, because like, that's normal process. Like, the problem with this lawyer, this immigration lawyer, was that she was following on the normal process. Because like in previous circumstances under the Trump administration, when you recognize that the federal government actually made an immigration enforcement action that was wrong, that was made erroneously, or there was like some kind of issue with the process, then they just admit that they're wrong, and then they demand the return of the person. Like, this has happened so many fucking times. So that lawyer probably wasn't being brave or bold. That lawyer was going, yeah, this is what we always do. I've been a fucking immigration lawyer for 40 years. This is what I've always done. The problem is now you have Donald Trump the second time taking on a much more insane stance on this stuff. So now they're punishing lawyers for doing their fucking previously also very conservative, very reactionary positions on immigrant enforcement. Jesus Hasan, keep your explanations brief. What? Okay, my bad. What?
Not have said that. Should not have said that. And just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you know, you're making this person sound. This is a
bro. Hit me with the bro. Hit me with the grok. Summarize what this guy is saying. That was amazing.
MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him. Okay. This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
Weird, because the wife is like actively petitioning the government to bring her husband back. So I don't know why you're presenting this as though it's a favor to the wife. I like that because the wife is also, despite being an American citizen, she's also fucking brown. So for Trump, it's like easy to avoid that. Like he's like, yeah, whatever. The wife doesn't know any better. You know, she's basically a Mexican herself. Like that's what's happening here. The wife is like, hey, can you please bring my husband back? This is crazy. And Trump is just like, yeah, he was beating her wife. He was beating his wife. Trump just launched his own state news website. Wait, what? Bro! Oh, this is funny. I like this. I like this for very nerdy reasons. This is, I think, basically trying to recreate Drudge Report. Famously, an old school right-wing publication that is now anti-Trump. So I think they made it look like Drudge Report on purpose as like a fuck you to Drudge Report. To be like, yeah, we'll make our own. Most successful first 100 days in presidential history. Oh, I love this. White House Speaker Johnson, 100 days, 100 stories. POTUS, in the coming weeks and months, we will pass the largest tax cut in American history. Trump launches his own Drudge Report. Drudge Report. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, what is happening, dude? Oh, God, look at Drudge Report, by the way. This is literally so... Who designed this? I don't know, like some dude in 1997. The most racist guy you know from 1997 designed this and was like, I cooked. They have not changed the design of this website since it started. Yeah, GOCD shit. And it's funny because they used to be like, obviously they're like super right-wing, but they became anti-Trump somewhere along the way. So that's why I think the Trump administration is recreating the Drudge Report, but within the White House. Anyway, let's keep going.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
Came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, a great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my #1 issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshop. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it was Photoshop? Well,
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted.
Yesterday, when I watched this part of the broadcast, when I watched this part of the interview, I realized something was wrong. I realized that this is full Brandon. Like he went, we have Brandonized. We have Brandonification that has been implemented in the White House. It is truly terrifying. I think Donald Trump actually believes that this dude had the letter M, the letter S, the #1 and the #3 on his knuckles. Ivy League educated conservative response to this, by the way. Another example of Trump taken literally, not figuratively. Of course he knows the gang member didn't literally ink that on his fingers. They were added to translate the tattoos. Did you watch the full video? He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. Yes, I saw it. I'm confused as to how this is a point of contention. Well, Ivy League educated lawyer, debate perverts, obviously. No disrespect to your family members, but like, yeah, if they're lawyers, they are debate perverts, okay? What do I always say? Lawyers are debate perverts, and the highest level of debate pervertry, debate pedophilia, is when you become a Supreme Court justice, okay? Lawyers are debate perverts. Judges are also debate perverts. Supreme Court of the United States justices are debate pedophiles. It's like the highest level of debate pervertry is debate pedophilia. Accountants are money perverts. Also, MS-13 is quite known for not using dog whistles. Yeah, if you guys have ever seen an MS-13 gang member, this part is so funny because MS-13 gang members do not hide their affiliation with the gang. I've never seen an MS-13 gang member that is just like, oh, I'm shy about my gang affiliation. They literally will tattoo their fucking eyelids, dude. They tattoo their eyeballs, okay? Like, you can tell when someone is MS-13. I can't say this is the same thing for other gangs, but for MS-13, it's like kind of their thing where they just straight up will write the letter M, the letter S, and the numbers 1 and 3 pretty prominently on their bodies, sometimes their entire face. They will tattoo their scalps. They will tattoo their eyelids. They will tattoo their eyeballs. They tattoo everything, okay? It's not like there's dudes that just say MS-13 like right here. It's not like the guy that got deported, Lamau. Yeah, no, exactly not like the guy that got deported. The initial point of contention was that the tattoos that he had on his fingers were actually resembling. They were symbolic for the letter M, the letter S, the #1, and the #3. Okay? That's what was the assertion. Now, that assertion did not actually meet the standard of scrutiny initially that it was used in the immigration court arguments for why he was MS-13. Like, they did not bring up his finger tattoos, his knuckle tattoos in the initial detainment, in the initial immigration hearings at all. Which means they didn't think that those were MS-13 tattoos. And as a matter of fact, they so didn't think that those were MS-13 tattoos that they actually didn't even bring it up until like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of controversy. The Donald Trump administration just basically made up a whole bunch of shit and then decided post hoc that this was the one to land on. But it didn't even end there. And the reason why I think this is an really particularly insane situation is because Trump doesn't even just think that his tattoos are actually symbolic, like this is an average MS-13 gang member, by the way. I wonder what gang this guy belongs to. I simply cannot tell. Okay, not exactly shy guys. Okay, not exactly shy, especially because like people say MS-13 gang members are like heinous, like particularly heinous. They do like incredible crimes, and it is true to a certain degree. Maybe not to the same degree as like Trump talks about them, but like they do a lot of fucked up shit. Like if they're around a cop, like it's over anyway. Okay, yeah. Bro, he has multiple sclerosis. Microsoft fan. Yeah, that's what this is. That's probably what this is. You're right. In any case, that's not even the argument here for Trump. However, Trump is making kind of that argument, I guess, where he's saying MS-13 gang members, they don't hide that they're MS-13. See, he very clearly wrote the letter M, the letter S, the number 1 and number 3 on his tattoos. He thinks this shoddy Photoshop, or not even Photoshop, MS Paint job is literally real tattoos. He thinks this letter M, this letter S, this number 1 and number 3 on his knuckles is actual ink and not like something that a person, like a staffer, added on to the photo so that he could make a more convincing argument that like this is what the indication is. That is what this argument is. That's what Trump is saying right now. And obviously that's not the case. He doesn't have the letter M, the letter S, the number 1 and the number 3 on his knuckles. Obviously that's not the case. Except Trump is not doing this other thing where he also claims that the dude also had the word marijuana, the word smile, the word cross, and the word skull also tattooed. He just thinks these letters are tattooed. Why doesn't he think these are also tattooed? It doesn't make any sense. That's why I say, wait, so Trump actually believes the shitty MS Paint markers added on are actual real tattoos? Does he also think he tattooed marijuana, smile, cross, and skull on his fingers? This is a severe cognitive issue. And it's funny because Tim Pool and everybody else basically kept saying, oh, you guys are R-worded for believing that. Holy fuck, liberals fall for this shit because their influencers are fucking R-worded. Trump appears to hold up an altered image of wrongfully deported man's hand. To which Austerity's Theft reposted this and said, hey, Tim, tell us more about those R-worded libs. It turns out Trump is an R-worded liberal. He's a libtard himself. How is the cross and skull supposed to mean 1 and 3? They were saying that the cross is supposed to imply 1 because it looks like a 1, even though it would probably imply 4. And they're saying that the skull has 3 holes, and that's why it's supposed to imply 3. Except the skull has 4 holes because it has a mouth hole too. So I don't even know why. So it would be MS44, I guess. But it doesn't matter because they fucking made it up, chat. That's it. And here's the other thing. Yeah, psychotic numerology bullshit. They're reaching. They are reaching. Exactly. But even if that was the case, even if this dude had literally 2 of MS1 and 3, there has to be due process. You can't just decide post hoc. Wait, Tim deleted the tweet? No, he didn't. No, it's still there. You heard from Netanyahu since your secret meeting with him? Yeah, he told me you're gay. The only like good argument I saw was that he was trying to cover up the tats. You can see the shape 3 in the skull. I don't know. Oh, wait. So that's a separate argument. You're saying that he actually did have the M, the letter S, and the number 1 and the number 3 on his skull, on his knuckles, but then he tried to do a cover up by adding like a marijuana leaf and a smiley face. Okay, how does a smiley face turn into the S then? Yeah, this is the other argument I've heard. No, skull in Spanish starts with C, and C is the 3rd letter in the alphabet. Okay. Smiley face. What is that? How do you say that in Spanish? What letter does that start with? Why is S in English for smiley, but then skull is in Spanish? Sonrisa? Oh, it also starts with smiley, also starts with S? Okay. I'm believing it now. I'm on board. Carita de sonrisa. Smiley. This guy got me. Smiley face. Anyway, none of this matters because one, no due process. That's the point of contention. And two, Trump doesn't even make that argument. Trump makes a different argument. Okay. And the argument that Trump makes, the argument that Trump is making is that he already had the letter M, the letter S, the number 1, and the number 3. I'm using my words very deliberately and very carefully here because this back and forth shows Trump seemingly thinking that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, our Maryland resident, had the letter M, the letter S, the number 1, and the number 3 tattooed on his knuckles. He makes this very clear in his pushback.
This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
All right. We'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why don't
sir.
you just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested. Ukraine.
Coming up, the Russia-Ukraine war
Don't
You
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
and that historic meeting. President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
I want to turn, I was just in Rome, and to that moving photograph of you and President Zelensky sitting in St. Peter's Basilica talking peace. It went around the world.
Sure.
Take us into that moment.
Well, look, the Ukraine is a very serious, very tough situation. And this is Biden's war. This is not my war, but I want to see if I can solve it because probably close to 5,000 young soldiers a week are being killed, Russian and Ukrainian. We also spend a tremendous amount of money in Ukraine, and Europe should be spending much more than us. They're not. They're spending much less. It's been badly handled by the Biden administration. It's been badly handled all the way around, the way around.
That moment.
The moment was a moment of solace, in a sense, because tremendous numbers of people are dying. A lot of his people are dying. They're being killed. And I feel very badly about it. I feel very badly about it. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. It was never even a thought of it happening.
It does feel like something's happening after that meeting with Zelensky in St. Peter's. You posted this on social media. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas and cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe...
Well, that was part of my post, but you're right. That was a part of a post.
And it says, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along.
Yeah, that's possible. Sure.
He might be...
He could be tapping me along a little bit. I would say that...
Damn, big concession here for the Pootie heads. Okay, big concession here for the Adolf Putler heads. Real Adolf Putler knowers, rise up. Trump is basically finally admitting that maybe he's being strung along by Adolf Putler. This is the worst interview he's done to date. The only one that I can think of that was more disastrous than this did that one Axios interview with the Australian guy where he would just keep saying no one is dying of COVID. It's fake. But also China brought it to us because they wanted to kill us with a bioweapon. Also, don't get vaccinated. It's fine. That one lives in my mind. The Jonathan Swan interview lives in my mind as one of the most insane interviews that he had done at that point. This one is coming close to his COVID era arc. I think during COVID, he was losing it a little bit. He definitely was. I think it was also after he had gotten COVID. So he was just definitely not all there. But right here, mental decay has set in. Mental decay has fucking set in firmly within the first 100 days. He's lost it. He's lost the plot.
He would like to stop the war. I think that if it weren't for me, I think he'd want to take over the whole country, personally. I always felt.
Do you have a Labubu? I do not. I will never be able to get a Labubu because Donald Trump put a tariff on Labubu exclusively. I do still like saying la boo boo. I think it's very funny. It's a very funny word. Boo boo lemon. La boo boo. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to fly out to Japan to get my la boo boo fill. He wanted to think he didn't really believe the MS-13 thing and he was just doubling down. But he seems right now to have really believed Putin and trusted him. I can't think of reasons he could be lying. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I don't like making assertions or I don't like making analysis off of like this person is crazy or this world leader is stupid and demented. Trump makes that very difficult. Trump makes that incredibly difficult for me. Just like Vladimir Putin makes that very difficult because he does do insane shit all the time. But I think Trump especially with the MS-13 thing is like, how am I supposed to not tell you that he's experiencing significant mental decline? Has he come out since this interview and been like, no, I just implied that the knuckle tattoos meant MS-13? Like, has he done that yet? Because I'm expecting it. Like, I'm expecting someone to fucking be like, Mr. President, can you please explain to the American population that you don't actually think that the MS-1 and 3 are painted on this man's knuckles in the form of a tattoo, and you said it in jest. Please just do the thing that you do always. Like, haha, you were just saying it in jest. You don't understand art of the deal. He is feigning mental fatigue.
So when I left,
like, because if I am to believe that he genuinely got duped by that fucking MS-13 paint job, MS paint job, then maybe he does legitimately think that he's talking to Xi every night. Like, they found like a Chinese American staffer to talk to Trump. And he unironically thinks like, no, I talk to Xi every day. He's in the White House. He's in the White House. I see him. Much shorter since the last time I saw him. That's right. He's Chinese. He's right here. I'm going to bring him out. Bring out the leader. Just random fucking Chinese American staffer. What do you mean? I talk to him every day. He always tells me, Mr. President, you are so smart. We screwed you over. We screwed you over. Bring out the Chinese.
there wasn't even a chance that this would happen.
Yeah, dude's not even Chinese. He's Japanese. He's like, I've been meaning to tell the president, I don't know how to communicate this to him. I'm Japanese and I'm not Xi Jinping. Come on, you know math. Don't lie to them now. You keep telling me you're Xi Jinping.
When Biden got involved, I won't say whether or not he handled it properly, but obviously it wasn't good because the war started. Putin went in, the war started. I wanted to get all of Ukraine once he went in. And I think part of the reason he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan, how incompetently Milley and all these guys handled that. It was one of the greatest embarrassments of our lifetimes, but maybe in the history of our country. Okay. So Putin went in. I think Putin wanted all of Ukraine. Right. I think if I didn't win the election, he would have gotten all of Ukraine. I think he would have taken all of Ukraine. I think his first choice, never with me, he would have...
Glaze. Sorry. That's just Glaze, big dog. Putin, he's so strong, he would have taken all of Ukraine. If it wasn't, he would have taken all of Ukraine. He was going to do it. He's going to do it any day now. That's what I'm stopping.
Never gone in with this.
When the work of a great leader is done, the people will think they have done it all by themselves. All of us in China are Xi. Thank you, Top Xi.
This group of losers, he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan. He said, wow, this is my chance. Because it was always the apple of his eye. I talked to him. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I think he wanted the whole country.
You've said for months.
And because of me, I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting. Don't forget.
You think he wants peace? You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes. I think
Still.
he does. I think
even with the raining missiles
I think he really, his dream was to take over the whole country. I think because of me, he's not going to do that.
Do you trust him? Do you trust him?
I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
And
happy.
then you start hitting me with fake questions. You start telling me that a guy whose hand is covered with a tattoo doesn't have the tattoo. You know.
All right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No,
just
I am
tell
not,
you,
sir.
I don't trust a lot of people. But I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me. And I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. Okay. It's a war that never should have happened. It did happen because of incompetent people.
Last question on this.
But it never should have happened.
If there's no peace deal, will the U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine?
I don't want to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I would or not. I want to leave that as a big fat secret because I don't want to ruin a negotiation. But
I'd be worried
I will
if I
tell
were
you,
Ukrainian.
I was not happy when I saw Putin shooting missiles into a few towns and cities. And that was not something that I like seeing. And I thought it was inappropriate. But I think the whole war is inappropriate.
Okay.
Again, it's a war that shouldn't have happened. This is a war that if the election weren't rigged, and it was totally rigged, the 2020 election, if it weren't rigged, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have had the embarrassment of Afghanistan. You wouldn't have October 7th with Israel. You wouldn't have had any of the problems that you have right now.
I want to ask one
and
question.
You wouldn't have had inflation either.
All right. I want to ask one question about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There's a lot of turmoil at the Pentagon right now. There's the signal chat with his wife on it where he's discussing that attack in Yemen. There's another signal chat discussing the attack on Yemen. There's a reporter accidentally involved. You said the other day that you had a talk with the secretary. Did you take him to the woodshed?
I had a talk with him, and whatever I said.
Now October 7th was Biden's fault. Fucking for real, bro. It's, you know what's really crazy about this? I forget which, I think it was JNS that wrote about me back in the day, the Jewish News Service, where the conversation that I had with AOC, where I was talking about how Trump's actions directly led to October 7, and they posted that, and like AOC agreed with me on this. And they posted that conversation as though this was an own, right? They were like, oh, how dare you fucking say truth, right? And what's interesting about it is that if the Democrats weren't such hypocritical monsters in general on the issue of Israel, where they also were like, please go ahead, do as much unlimited genocide as possible. We love that. You know, go ahead. It's amazing. We love that you're doing a live streamed baby murder session every day. They could point to that. They could point to the polarization on the issue of Israel. But they are not doing that. And the reason why they didn't do that was because they also like it. They also like what Israel was doing. They wanted Israel to do this. Yeah, here it is. Abraham Accords moving U.S. Embassy to blame for October 7 attack, AOC says. Representative Brad Schneider called AOC's statement both ignorant and abhorrent. Yeah. Here it is. Hasan Piker said that October 7th, the bloodiest day for Jews since the Holocaust, was a direct consequence of the Abraham Accords and many of Jared Kushner's and Donald Trump's administration's actions, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Ocasio-Cortez agreed, saying 10,000%, Jewish Insider reported. He is just as responsible for October 7 as anyone else, Piker said. It directly happened as a direct consequence of him moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the annexed territory of Golan Heights as Israeli territory, going against international law, and also conducting the Abraham Accords, completely sidestepping the Palestinians in the conversation. That is a major reason. I cooked. Once again, posting my W's. Thank you. And the funniest part about like pro-Israeli outlets in general is that they don't even try to say this argument is wrong. They just know that their audiences believe that this argument is wrong. What's the real reason for October 7? It's because, all Arabs and all Palestinians are anti-Semitic monsters that wanted to do mass rapes and they're barbaric, right? That's it. That is the real driving motivator in the minds of in the minds of people who are pro-Israel. Which is precisely the reason why they don't see any reason, just like the Free Press, did not see any reason to go through my remarks and address them or correct the record on them. They just basically expect their viewership to go, how could he say this? It's true. There's no counter to my point because it's fucking correct. You see? But I think this conversation also demonstrates the depravity of the Democrats, like their morally repugnant behavior when trying to continue Israel's bloodshed instead of driving a partisan wedge on this issue. Part of the myth that is that opposing Israel on any front is inherently evil, so just posting this sort of thing as if it was a problem to say it is part of that. Exactly. But to the average person, they're not fucking hopped up on Zionist propaganda to that degree, which is why this division has taken place even in the Western world at this point, where there is this generational divide. They don't have that fucking propaganda baked into their consciousness. So they look at that and go, what? Why is this outlet even saying this is anti-Semitic? This is not anti-Semitic at all. The average person, like what a Hasbara rag, what a pro-Israel rag presents as anti-Semitic information is not going to come across as anti-Semitic information to the average person. That's it. And they just cannot figure that out because they're so lost in their own propaganda. They believe their own shit.
I probably wouldn't be inclined to tell you, but we had a good talk. He's a talented guy. He's young, he's smart, highly educated, and I think he's going to be a very good hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in
I don't have
Hegseth.
100% confidence in anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
it's a pretty important position.
No. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
We will.
Let's go.
Coming up, President Trump on Elon Musk and Doge.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too recklessly?
President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
Elon Musk and Doge. Everyone knows that there's wasteful government spending. It's really important. But the cuts have had some serious consequences. There have been cuts to foreign aid programs that save lives and keep people alive overseas. There's been research at the National Institutes of Health on cancer, on Alzheimer's, that has had to be stopped. And the question I think people have is, did Doge go too...
Like, again, not to be one note, I know that people get bored whenever I fucking bring everything back to Israel. They're like, oh, you're so obsessed. But like this administration is kind of obsessed with Israel, or at least using Israel as a way to undermine American civil liberties. But like another question here is like, your administration has taken the initiative to revoke NIH grants from colleges that have had BDS movements, like boycott, divestment, and sanctions on the state of Israel movements. Don't you feel like, you know, this is ridiculous? Like there's no grant revocation for criticizing America, but there is a grant revocation for criticizing a foreign nation. How do you claim to be the most free speech principled president who is killing cancel culture while simultaneously taking the initiative to remove grants from colleges that are engaging in like cutting edge publicly funded research? You kind of are, man, not gonna lie. Yeah, you only think that if you are oblivious to the ways in which this administration is utilizing Israel and criticisms of Israel as a way to listen to my words. Listen to my words. Do you feel like that's not important to address here? Do you think it's okay for the NIH to erroneously revoke grants from colleges that have had students demand to boycott, divest, and put sanctions on the state of Israel? There's no other country on this list. It's just Israel. They just use Israel as a way to do this. Do you feel like that's important to bring up when you're talking about cutting NIH grants? Do you think this is my obsessive nature? No, Trump is dumb as hell. Well, it's not just that Trump is dumb as hell, goofy chatter. The fucking interviewer is not dumb as hell, or at least is not supposed to be dumb as hell. The interviewer is supposed to ask this question because I think it's relevant.
Too far, too fast, too reckless.
No, I think Doge has been, look, saved $150 billion. We saved, that's a lot of money. There's also a lot of things right now under investigation, which is going to increase that amount by a lot. That's a tremendous amount of money. There were some things where, when I heard about them, I put them back, as you know. There are things that I'm considering right now putting back, but overall we've saved hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, the original promise was $2 trillion, went to $1 trillion, now to $150 billion, and heading south.
You don't know what it's going to be because we have things that are at a very high level that are being looked at right now. We also found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, as you know. We found a lot of fraud. There was a lot of fraud. Fraudulent things were taking place And we ended that, and those people are going to be suffering because of it.
A legal note fraud is a crime. There have been no referrals to the Justice Department on any.
Well, you don't know that, do you? How do you know that?
Have there been referrals to the? Are there criminal
How
referrals?
would you know that there were no referrals? I think there were referrals.
They generally are. There's been no investigation from the Justice Department. I'm asking you, sir.
No, you're not asking me. You made a statement. You're not
now I'm asking you.
That was a statement that you made. There have
now
been.
I'm asking you.
Have there been? Yes, there have.
So there have been referrals for fraud from the work of
Of course there have been. Take a look at some of these things that took
right,
place. Billions of dollars were given to people for no reason whatsoever. Of course there have been.
I want to bring up what is truly to a lot of people, one of the biggest achievements of your first term. That is Operation Warp Speed. You got that COVID vaccine up and going and distributed, and a lot of people took it, and a lot of people feel their lives have been saved by it. Now we have this measles outbreak, biggest in a decade in Texas, and it's because people aren't getting their children vaccinated. Do you recommend to parents that they get their children vaccinated for measles?
Well, I recommend the governors to make the decisions. You have a very talented governor of Texas, and he's making decisions, and those decisions are going to be made rapidly. This is a very much different thing than COVID in terms of rapidity and speed and other things. Measles have been with us a long time, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that the governors are making the decision. It's a federalist decision.
The president is our leader in so many ways, and your voice counts so much, and you can't tell moms and dads, it's a good thing to get a measles vaccine.
Do I recommend it?
Yes,
yes I do. I recommend it, yeah.
Got it. That
do
was
I
my
mandate
question.
it? No.
No, I didn't.
But I do recommend it, yes.
Good. Do you think
And I have recommended it.
Do you think the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has a history of, at the very least, vaccine skepticism, do you think Kennedy recommends the measles vaccine?
He did. He recommended it. Yeah, he did.
You satisfied with his
he recommended that they go out and get the vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still ahead.
I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
I want to talk presidential power, the powers that you have in the presidency temporarily that the American people have given you, right? You've revoked a lot of people's security clearances. You've revoked people's security details who are still threatened, with death threats. You've gone after law firms because they've employed people you don't like, or they have represented people you don't like.
Well, they obviously agreed because they paid me a lot of money.
Well, the reason they agreed is because you were threatening to destroy their business with your executive order that said you can't represent clients for the federal government. That's their bread and butter.
Boys. These are the biggest, most powerful lawyers. These are not people
you got a lot of leverage
are easily intimidated.
As president, you've got all the cards.
They paid hundreds of millions of dollars because they felt, I guess, they probably felt they did something wrong.
It was for survival, sir.
No, it isn't.
You're crushing their business.
These firms are very powerful firms, and there's 15 of them. And these are firms that probably, look, you have to ask them. In fact, this is a separate story. You have to ask them, why did you all pay Trump hundreds of millions of dollars in services, etc.? Why did you do that? I don't know.
You don't think that
we have a clause in the thing that, while we admit no wrongdoing, but it's like one of those things. And now I'm friendly with those firms, but it's, these are the most powerful firms in the world. And they just signed whatever I put in front of them. I've never seen anything like it. I'm actually surprised myself in a certain way. But they obviously felt they probably did something wrong. I guess that's why they signed.
I guess the question out of that.
Sorry, I was talking to the groomer because Kaya sheds twice a year, and she sheds uncontrollably, and she started shedding again. So I was asking the groomer what to do in that situation. I was like, what do I do? How do I deal with it? Should I get any tools or whatever? Yeah, there was a groomer in my house. He's gone now. Dr. Disrespect. She sheds a lot twice a year, but while she's shedding she sheds for 2 months almost. Winter coat, summer coat. I don't know. Fall, winter, so all year technically, yeah. So I was just trying to ask what can I do? Should be 2 big blowouts a year for her coat. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Has Kai ever interacted with cats? Yesterday, she did a little bit. She just treats them as prey. If you save her fluff, birds will use it to make nests in the spring and the summer. She needs a bit wider bed. Place bed there. She's struggling a little bit and get comfortable. Thank you, chest twitcher. I know. I know the approximate size of bed that makes her comfortable. She's pretty comfy, I think. She sleeps on it literally the entire day. We use a Furminator on our dog. Yeah, that's what I've heard. This interview actually paints kind of a sad picture. He's this curmudgeonly old man who should be on top of the world as a leader of the free world, and it sounds like he's muttering about how everyone's out to get him, and he's surrounded by sycophants who are saying, yes, sir, you are so right. Everyone's against you, you poor thing. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Biden, too, except he was like, that's kind of what happened with Biden, too, except he also was just like so totally and utterly brain broken that I think he just couldn't comprehend what was going on around him.
Is the concern that people have. Are you using your powers as president to get personal revenge?
No, I'll tell you what. You're really not asking, and you should be asking. There has never been a president in this country, in the history, that was persecuted like I was persecuted by really crooked people, dishonest, horrible people, and it's been proven. So when you say I'm treating people rough, I'm not treating people rough. I was treated worse than any president in the history of our country. And, you know, people figured, well, maybe that's it. Finally, we got, you know, he's leaving town. There goes the helicopter. And then I came back. And I came back because I have tremendous support. You know, when you win an election like I won it, and you will admit I won all 7 swing states, I won the popular vote, I won 2,750 districts compared to 500 districts. That's why the map is all red. And those people feel that I was treated unfairly.
But does that give you the right to go after your political opponents with the powers of this office?
I'm going after, all I'm doing, hey, Biden did something to me, and I did something to Biden. And you know why I did it? Because he's grossly incompetent. That's not a man.
Trump needs to be stopped. Hasan, do something. Trump on possible toy shortage. Maybe the children will have $2 instead of 30. Guys, it's not toys, it's figurines. But also, in any case, it's another one of those like weird, oh God, I hate finding myself in a unique position where I hate finding myself in this like weird predicament where on the one hand, he's like kind of doing degrowth. So I'm not even totally against it. But on the other hand, it's like he's right. He's just the worst person to make this point. You know what I mean? Where it's like, he's not wrong when he says this, but it's not like there is an alternative that he has designed anyway. And it's not just fucking toys. Does that make sense? It's not toys. We're not talking about just toys. We're talking about like every single thing that comes out of China that is used in the process of manufacturing. God, I hate it. I hate it. I hate him so much. He makes me so mad. The way he operates makes me so mad. One, he makes me mad because he causes a lot of harm. But two, he makes me mad because I'm jealous. I'm jealous that he gets to do this. And he doesn't actually get the same pushback that like a Bernie Sanders type would. A Bernie Sanders type would probably lead to a little bit of economic instability in the short term. Okay. But like the expectation is that any Democrat that wants to fix this system that is fundamentally flawed is going to go through the fucking ringer, and they're not going to have a base of support like Donald Trump, base of support that's just like held together by pure cult-like religious fervor towards their leader. And also, it won't matter because Trump can fuck this up. Trump can basically break everything with no actual real discernible solution. It makes me so jealous. And I think any leftist that tells you that this is not like unimaginably frustrating to think about with like a leftist Trump, right? Like an actual socialist Trump doing a similar thing. Any leftist that doesn't recognize that is lying to you or they're just delusional. Like there is definitely something to admire about what this fucking asshole is able to get away with. I hate it. I hate it so much. He has king power, and to use it as a central planner would fix this country inside 5 to 10 years. That's what I'm. Yes. If there was a figure that was able to just be Trump. If Trump got beamed with the socialism dart, the socialism laser tomorrow, and restructured the American economy, nationalized the extraction industry, and created this central planning committee where they rebuilt this robust manufacturing base, like all this stuff, and he was still the same like dipshit who just goes on TV and is like, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna suck for a little bit, but it's gonna be good. 20 years down the line, you'll be singing my praises. Like that would unironically extend a lifeline to the American empire, to the project of America. But unfortunately, that's not happening. The exact opposite is happening, where we have a reactionary loser who is stupid and is isolated from obviously anyone with a semblance of intelligence, surrounded by sycophants, breaking everything with no solution to fix it. And we have a Democratic Party that is supposed to resist against this kind of thing and undermine this project, but they're too busy fucking trying to find the oldest person in Congress to put into a position of power. They're like, where is the oldest guy in office or gal in office? That's what they're too busy doing.
And that should be allowed to, be looking at things that are very confidential.
But what about,
because
there's 71 people
here's a man that
revoked
used
it.
an auto pen to sign very important documents. Now, who really is, do you think he knew that they were using an auto pen? He used an auto pen to sign very, very important documents. And so those are really the questions you should be asking. What do you think of the auto pen? Who wielded the auto pen? Because whoever that person was, think of it, whoever the person that wielded the auto pen, he was really the president of the United States. Because I don't think that Biden knew anything about it.
Fair enough. But you are the president now, and I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
Yeah, he's like, what about all the shit that you've messed up? What about everything that you've been messing up? He's like, well, Biden had an auto pen. Okay.
No. People that I think are dishonest. It's not that I don't even know most of them. They're people that I think are dishonest.
These people made you angry.
No, it's not anger. These are people that I think are very dishonest. I don't think they're worthy of being able to go into top secret information.
I don't even know what the angle is here. Like, what is his obsession with the auto pen? Is he implying that like Biden was held together? Is that the conspiracy? Is that like Biden was held together by a group of people that were like making decisions at his behest? Is that what it is? Like that's, and I guess it's not like that crazy of a suspicion.
I think that's fine. And Biden did that with many of our people. But when you look at it, these are people that I don't think are worthy. That's my decision. It's not a question of anger.
Okay. I understand you just had a phone call with the new Canadian premier, and they just had this election.
Yeah.
You were a big issue in it, and Canadians, many of them, are really angry, furious about your talk about we're going to take over Canada, is going to become the 51st state. And it kind of is of a piece. A lot of travel is down into the United States from around the world. It feels like there's been reputational damage.
The country's doing great.
Well,
prices are down.
Not the tourism.
Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Wait till you see the real numbers come out in 6 months.
Dude, what? Dude, that's crazy. Like, this is such a ridiculous lie. There are immediate numbers to very quickly just, show that he is lying. He's like, tourism is down like 30% by some countries. You don't need to look at 6 months from now. You can look at right now. People are legitimately scared about being detained by a fucking Gestapo officer and possibly even sent to CCOT or not be able to enter the country. Like, what? There are travel advisories from a bunch of other foreign nations. And to be fair, they're not even being hysterical. So many Australians will not go here anymore. Dude, I was thinking about that. Like, I want Boy Boy and I did a thing to come here for the summer as they always do. But like, also at the same time, like they've been They've been around, okay? I feel like they're just gonna not be allowed into the country. Yo, link, please. This is so hard. So you don't notice the messages of substance. This is so hard, man. Can you check the logs? Fuck, man. This hurts my head. Headache, Papaglio, link, please. Please, Hasan, I need help with research. I give up. Yeah, okay, give up. What the fuck is headache, Papaglio?
From now, when you see the numbers.
But do you think, I'm going to ask you, if I may, do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst. I have to be honest with you.
Thank you for the opinion, but more importantly, thank you for having us here. I have one more question. It's a big one. It's a question that you know a lot of people have out there. What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again. We have a country that was failing. We have a country that was laughed at all over the world. We had a leader that was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. The election was rigged. He should have never been there. Our country suffered greatly, and now our country's coming back like nobody can believe. I have editorials just today where they're saying they've never seen anything like it. They love it. Our country's coming back, and we're respected again.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Terry, very much.
Once again, we want to thank President Trump for inviting us to the White House.
Oh, shut up.
President Trump is meeting with his cabinet right now after marking 100 days in office. The president opened that meeting by touting his accomplishments, then blamed the Biden administration for the latest GDP.
Sorry, the groomer is here. Guy is getting groomed. Friday going to be the Super Bowl for the unemployed? True.
Report showing the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter.
Probably saw some number.
They're replacing Connolly with someone even older. Oh my God. Shut up. 87-year-old Holmes Norton eyes bid to lead. No, this is a joke, I think. That's got to be a joke. There's no way. That's got to be someone joking. Someone jokingly dropped that as a meme in Axios. Like a Democrat staffer is making a joke, I think. There's no fucking way, dude. Dude, that is so, oh my God. That is so insane. What the fuck? It's who Connolly named as his successor. Are they just like, do they hear our criticisms and they laugh at us behind closed doors? What's happening? Do they they're like, oh, they thought we couldn't go older. No. Is the Democrat stationed in the Vatican? No, this is incredible stuff. This is fantastic. You don't get it? We need someone who still remembers the Nazis personally. He's the man for this very short moment. This is incredible. 2 L's on Connolly, right? I'm not going to listen to the funny Steven Crowder song, okay? Stop sending it to me. We're in the news now. We're in the news portion.
Numbers today, and I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January. This is the quarterly numbers. And we came in, and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country in so many ways. Not only at the border was more obvious, but we took over his mess in so many different ways.
And I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang, because, Selena, the president also said if you take out some of these numbers, GDP is actually up, and he touted investments in the U.S. What do you make of his explanation for this GDP report compared to what economists are saying?
Well, look, the president is blaming the GDP report as well as the stock market on former President Biden. But most economists agree that the drop in consumer confidence, the volatility in the stock market, and this economic slowdown that we're seeing is a result of the president's chaotic tariff policy that has been on again, then off again, then on again. Now, these are sweeping tariffs that the president has imposed, and it's led many companies to rush to get ahead of these tariffs, surging imports of goods from abroad. And a lot of companies have been on edge as well. Many businesses have been put on pause. And these China tariffs are especially damaging for companies that rely on trade between these two countries. Many small businesses, large businesses, as well as U.S. farmers. We've currently got 145% on many tariffs coming in, many goods coming in from China. And then China has imposed 125% tariffs on goods going from the U.S. into China, which is primarily agricultural goods. Now, our Terry Moran pressed the president on this issue yesterday, saying that for some of these American businesses, they're facing the possibility of extinction. The president brushing those concerns off, saying that everything is going to be fine. This administration continues, Diane, to maintain the position that any of this short-term pain is worth the long-term gain of revitalizing American manufacturing. The president also posting on Truth Social today, telling Americans to be patient.
Selena, the president talked a lot about China, as you say. One of the things he really wanted to emphasize here was the addition of the de minimis tariff exemption, and that's on sort of smaller imports. They're saying that this is helping small businesses. What did you make of that exchange with the Commerce Secretary?
So in specific,
can I just show you the stupidity of conservatives really quickly for a brief moment? I just want you to see something very stupid. Okay, I know we've moved on and it's not drama related or whatever, but like, I need you to see something very funny that I just saw in my replies. Okay. So I posted when Ethan was falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence. I posted this. I said, falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence to end the apartheid is ahistorical nonsense. He was offered a commutation of a sentence if he disavowed violent resistance twice. He refused, extending his prison sentence twice. Here is also in 1999, Nelson Mandela, the late and great Nelson Mandela, visiting Gaza and saying, choose peace rather than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is we will use
rather than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot proceed, where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence.
This guy said, you keep being obsessed with Jews, huh? Yeah, dude. That's what it is. You got me. That's why I'm obsessed with Israel, and not because it's doing a genocide right now with my tax dollars.
We will use.
His comments won him applause from leader Yasser Arafat. And
anyway, this guy, this is my favorite thing that conservatives do, where they go to Grok. You can't stop being obsessed with Israel, huh? Yeah, how dare Jews fight against Islamists instead of letting them destroy them? Yeah, we got it, dude. Your racism is in full display. The notion that like Islamists would destroy Israel. So anyway, the point I was making is, or what I wanted to show you is, conservatives love relying on Grok because they can't think for themselves. And I feel like it's very stupid to just like openly admit defeat, that a machine that has the capacity to lie, by the way, will with regular frequency, going to a machine to be like, is this person wrong, to prove a point. There has to be an account at this point of like Grok conservative self-owns, because I see this so frequently. I see it so goddamn frequently where people will just be like, Grok, is he lying? And then Grok will be like, no, he's not lying. And it's such a fucking hilarious thing. He's like, Grok, what logical fallacies are in this post? Why don't you try to make it up? Why? The post by Hasan the Hunt contains no logical fallacies. It refused to claim that Nelson Mandela never engaged with evidence, citing his refusal to disavow violent resistance and a quote supporting it when necessary. This avoids fallacies like strawman, ad hominem, or false dilemma, as it directly addresses the claim with historical facts. Mandela's role in the founding of Umkhonto we Sizwe, I'm going to butcher that, MK, and his stance during imprisonment support the argument. This post is focused and evidence-based, maintaining logical coherence. Ironically, Grok is smarter than most of those people. Yeah, of course they are, dude. Of course. These people are so dumb that they're relying on a chatbot. That's my point. I'm saying you are the lowest of the low at that point. Like you're literally saying a goddamn machine that has the capacity to be wrong, by the way, and still tell you with 100% certainty the wrong information is smarter than you. Think for yourself. Why do you need a machine to think for you? Wait, he doubled down, refresh. Shut up. He responded to Grok by being like, fuck you, you're wrong. Don't worry, there's other low-hanging fruit. There are so many people like this now. It's so sad. What? You're right. There are bigger issues to tackle here. Mandela's support for arms resistance against apartheid is well documented. He co-founded MK and refused to renounce violence for his freedom. The low-hanging fruit might be the debated comparison between South African apartheid and Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or myths about Mandela being purely nonviolent. His 1999 Gaza visit, backing peace, but justifying violence when necessary, fuels these discussions. Let's focus on those broader points. Even when he's like trying to double down, the Grok is like, no, actually, focus on the broader points here. The comparison is apt.
That de minimis exemption, closing that trade loophole that allows goods valued at less than $800 to come into the U.S. tariff-free, that really hurts some Chinese companies like the e-commerce retailers, Shein and Temu. Both of those companies have said that they're going to have to raise prices. In fact, they've already started raising prices because of that. Now, some would argue that this actually does benefit some American firms. Fast fashion retailer Forever 21, when they were closing stores, said that part of the reason was that they couldn't compete with these fast fashion, cheap e-commerce retailers from China that were benefiting from this loophole. But the president there, in the cabinet room, he also talked about how China is getting hammered by his tariffs. This does come as China's factory activity slipped to the worst contraction since December 2023, as China is grappling with these very steep tariffs from the United States. But the president, he also reiterated that we're talking to China. Now, Beijing has repeatedly said that they are not talking to the United States when it comes to trade. So it's still unclear at this point if negotiations between these two countries are even happening.
All right, Selena Wang, thank you. And a new report says the U.S. economy shrank for the first time since the pandemic. The GDP decreased at an annual rate of 0.3% since the beginning of January. That's the first drop in 3 years. Let's bring in chief economist at Numerator, Leo Feller, for more. Leo, thanks for coming back on. Always great to have you unpack these things with us. So as you heard me saying with Selena, President Trump says this GDP report is a result of the Biden administration. What's your take on his comments, his explanation, and what he's saying that if you remove some of these numbers, we're actually up?
Well, let's look at the data. So the data itself is telling us that in 2024, every single quarter of 2024, the economy was actually growing. And every single quarter of 2023, the economy was actually growing. It's really this first quarter of 2025 that the economy has shrank. And granted, this is a negative 0.3. This is basically flat. And it suggests that consumers, that businesses are basically just waiting to see what's going to happen next. This really looks like it's something that has been happening much more recently in the past couple of months, as consumers have been stating that they're increasingly nervous, they're increasingly pessimistic about job prospects, about income growth. And businesses themselves have announced that they are uncertain about how much they will be able to sell in the future, given how much policy change has occurred just in the past 2 months.
So, big picture, why is GDP dropping, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, listen, the big thing is that consumers have slowed how much they're spending, right? So spending is still up, but they're slowing it down. Businesses have imported quite a bit, right? And that's to try to front run these tariff increases. So if you think about, right, tariffs coming into place or already in place for products from China, businesses have tried to get ahead of this by bringing a lot of those imports in and boosting their inventories. Right now, I mean, businesses are basically saying, they tried to do this front loading, but we're even seeing in other data shipments from China drop substantially, which suggests that businesses have already done a lot of this front loading, and they're stopping to bring in, new goods, given the high tariff rates that are in place right now.
So sorry, Leo, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying there's not much that we can do about it now, given the policies that are in place. I think given the data that we're seeing, we'll probably just have some empty shelves coming into June and July as businesses have not been able to bring in new goods.
Does this offer any more fuel to recession fears?
I think we are at a tipping point where we can go into a recession, but we are really at that margin where it's possible to still step back and continue to have economic growth. If we continue down this trajectory of tariff wars, of threatening Federal Reserve independence and creating economic uncertainty, then I do think that we tip into a recession at the later half of this year.
All right, Leo Feller, always great to have you, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
President Trump marked the 100th day of his second term with a campaign-style rally in Michigan last night. He used most of the speech to attack his opponents and then boast about his actions in office so far, even as the polls show that he is losing a lot of support. He also had a very public dispute yesterday with one of the tech titans who stood behind him at his inauguration. Ed O'Keefe covered the rally for us. He's in Detroit with the latest. Ed, good morning to you.
Gail, good morning. The president back out on the campaign trail sounding familiar themes, suggesting that his term so far has been a success, despite the fact that his approval ratings on the slide and some tough economic reality.
Hello, Michigan.
100 days in, President Trump back in campaign mode, rallying his supporters in a battleground state.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years.
Recent CBS News polling shows immigration remains among the issues the president scores best on, so it's no surprise he talked it up.
You finally have a president who is defending our borders and our nation.
But in a striking moment, the American president used propaganda video shot by the El Salvadoran government to show how he's deported undocumented immigrants to that Central American nation.
How is going from a projected 4% growth to an actual -4? No, 0.5% growth, not 0.4% growth. Considered flat. It's because the diminished, like the shrinkage in the GDP is minor, and they're trying to navigate around that conversation to the best of their ability because that's what mainstream media does. They try to fucking normalize everything that you're experiencing so you don't like collapse and freak out and go, oh my God, we're in a recession. What the fuck is going on? Yes. Donald Trump is so bad at his job, though, that it's becoming increasingly more difficult every waking moment to manage. It's really, really hard to do propaganda that like even tries to maintain a sense of normalcy around Donald Trump and his actions. If you remove the numbers, the economy is up. The brandonization of Trump continues. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's less shipments coming in. I see it every day since I work in logistics. It's bad. I do feel like one day I won't be asked to come into work. Yeah, that's what's coming.
President's milestone day came as consumer confidence plunged again in April amid concerns about his planned tariffs. But Trump came to Michigan with relief for automakers. They'll still face a 25% tariff on imported cars and parts, but not an additional tariff on other critical materials, including steel and aluminum. And in an interview, he defended his decision to impose 145% tariffs on China.
They were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off.
The president argues his policies will end up benefiting auto workers like Scott Doody and Tabitha Noble, who were
What does the brandonization of Trump mean exactly? So Donald Trump has always been like crazy, says insane stuff, and then will say, "Oh, I didn't mean it," whatever, right? He'll make incredible mistakes, and then he'll try to package it as like something that he did deliberately, and then he'll come across like he solved the issue that he created. All that stuff is normal. Brandonization is something a little bit different. It's becoming senile. I think that his more erratic behavior this time around shows a little bit of Brandonization, but last night he went full Brandon. When we were watching that ABC interview, I realized like he has gone full Brandon. It's not even half measures, no half Brandon, full Brandon with the MS-13 tattoo stuff. We'll get to that in a second. It basically bricked my brain when I saw the tattoo stuff and him defending it and being like, no, the tattoos say MS1 and 3. It's obvious. Like that was a full Brandon moment. And it's been kind of scary to experience. The 5 are defending it. I think that they will try to defend it. Yeah, they'll try to defend it. And maybe Trump will come out and do plausible deniability later. But if he doubles down again and says, no, that's what the letters imply, it's full tilt. Full Brandon. We're doing full Brandon. Not half Brandon, full Brandon, real dark Brandon shit. It was like the Hamas beheading babies Brandon moment. Yeah. It was his beheaded babies. The difference, however, it's even worse than that because like there was a collective interest in a lot of people that Hamas actually decapitated babies. Like they wanted to believe that because they wanted to be so vicious to the Palestinians. In this circumstance, there's a lot of people who want to be vicious to undocumented migrants, but like it's worse than a Photoshop. There was like a Photoshop, there was an AI image out there of like beheaded babies or whatever that people were posting. Maybe somehow in the most charitable way possible, I'm saying like that got to Brandon, right? But in this situation, it's like so clearly Donald Trump looking at a photo where they just did this crude, this is like very crude MS paint job on top of this dude's like actual knuckles. And it was just an overlay and no one was supposed to even think that it was anything but an overlay. And he unironically, I think, thinks it's an overlay. It's very, I mean, it's not an overlay. He thinks it's unironically tattoos. Huh? She's being groomed. Yeah.
Furloughed just before Trump took office. Right now, they're feeling the pinch. What does that then cause you to have to worry about in terms of costs on a day-to-day basis?
Well, just daily living and, you know, your food went up, gas went up, our wages went down.
Utility bills have went up. Groceries have went sky high.
Both agree tariffs could eventually bring more jobs to the U.S., but there's currently uncertainty. State of the economy right now, in your view, here in Michigan is?
Not very good. Unemployment's went up. Every day, somebody's closing their doors because nobody's going in to buy anything. They can't afford to stay open.
Even with consumer confidence levels dropping to its lowest level in 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic, the president pushed back in that interview over the idea that the economy is in tough shape. He admitted there could be a transition period, would be a transition period, but said everything is, quote, headed in the right direction. Tony?
Ed, while we have you, what more can you tell us about this White House disagreement with Amazon? It led to a call, apparently, from President Trump.
Yeah, it all started with a report that Amazon was going to start publishing on its site the cost of things and what exactly was costing you because of the tariffs. And that, of course, caused the White House to get quite upset. They called it a hostile and political act. Amazon later claimed this was only an idea for its Amazon Haul site for the lower cost items and that it was never actually implemented. Before coming here to Michigan, the president said he gave Jeff Bezos a call and that they were able to quickly sort out the issue.
This genre is so boring. Talking to Trump supporters and saying, do you feel stupid for voting for him? I disagree. I think it gives a little bit of catharsis. Like it's basically red meat for the libs, you know? It's just like, well, okay, what do you do now? It also shows that there might be some discontent amongst the Trump supporters in general. So that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I don't know. It's just deeply disturbing. I actually want to hear from people who say, no, I still love my president. That's what I think is the better, that's the funnier content for me. I want to hear a guy who's like, my entire career is over. Okay. You don't understand. I literally am a drop shipper and Donald Trump single-handedly ruined my career. I will never, in a million years, I will never be able to recover from this financially. And then they go, do you hate that you voted for him? And he's like, no, I love him. I think I deserve less. I am filth. I'm a filthy little piglet who lives in filth and shit and piss. I am not worthy. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear from motherfuckers who are like, I will vote for him again. I hope he is president in 2028.
Critics suggest that this is yet another example of corporate leaders bending to the president's will. Tony?
All right, Ed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is an ABC News.